No idea where that music came from. Um, Marlon is on a mountain, so it's gonna be me and you guys today, and I'm pretty stoked because that means I get to just answer tactical questions today. And I'm bored. I feel like I should bring someone up and we could just chat and break down your business. Would you guys? Would that be cool? Would that be fun? Hmm. Ooh. Okay. Let's do this, guys. So, what I'm gonna do is I know I had some few. Just so you guys know, whenever I do Q and A's on Instagram, I'll get over like 100 questions typically. So it's always like brutal to be able to respond to everything, which I'll never be able to do. But I usually get some really good questions. And so what I can do is there's a few that I wanted to hit that I wanted to share publicly because they're really good questions. That's part one. And then let's see if I can find them here. And part two is that I was in Dallas Fort Worth this past week for a mastermind. And oh shit, yeah, let's do this actually. If you want to come on this stream and just chat with me, click that link and then we can start answering questions and have like some back and forth. So it's not just me being alone while Marlon snowboards all day. Yeah, I can definitely share some questions that we're going to get through the questions in the chat. I want to share some of the really cool questions that I've got on Instagram Q&A. And then on top of that, I was in Dallas Fort Worth for the past couple of days this past week and at a mastermind with a ton of 7, 8, and a few 9-figure entrepreneurs. And it was really cool. It was a cool event, a lot of cool businesses and a lot of cool operators to be able to hang around with and get to see constraints that people are running inside their businesses. And it was really cool because, I mean, honestly, about 8 hours of that time was just hot seating other people's businesses. So that was really cool. Let's do this. Let's bring Ryan up so I'm not alone today.
Sam.
What's up, dude?
What's up, brother? How are things?
Dude, things are amazing. I mean, I'm not like snowboarding amazing, but they're pretty freaking good. But yeah, dude, let's get in because you're okay. So for the people that don't know you, you are young, what, like 22, 23?
21.
Fucking Christ. 21. Okay, you're 21. You don't live in the States, not at least not anymore. So give us some insight because you are no longer in America. So where are you and why are you there?
Yes, sir. So I'm in La Paz, Mexico, and that's solely just to kind of consider it a season of monk mode, just like isolation to grind type of deal. I just graduated college in Madison, Wisconsin. So I got one more semester there just because I'm paying rent. So I'm going back there this week, actually, unfortunately. But I've been here 5 weeks, which has been phenomenal just for growth, just to kind of just focus on me. So I'm very grateful for that.
So Marlon and I are pretty big on environmental design. So like the room that I'm in, this is the room that I'm only in if I'm only ever going to be in this room if I'm on a podcast or on like a big training or I am making money. I'm not allowed to be in here to basically F around or do anything outside of make money. It is environmentally designed that even if there's like junk in the background because I'll like store stuff in here, this is my money making room. And so it sounds like you took environmental design to an extreme and you left the freaking country. Were there distractions in your life before you left? Is that what you were trying to get away from?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would definitely say yes, just like having friends around. I'm in a fraternity at school, so just a lot of friends that are just always hanging out. So yeah, that's definitely a fair assumption. And for sure, like, yeah, I'm pretty good about like isolating myself, but sometimes it's almost like that external pressure of like, oh, I'm in my room all the time, even though I'm chasing what I'm chasing. So it was almost like I'd rather just avoid the situation for a period of time just so that I have no other obligations than just this. And it's funny you mentioned like a room specifically where you're locking in. That's kind of what I have going on right now. It's like this interesting desk wall thing where I'm like almost in my own hole where I can just lock into.
I appreciate that. So yeah, you're limiting any form of distraction. So okay, I love that. And so to people who are always like, it's funny because people come into my DMs with every fucking excuse possible on why they can't do anything. Really interestingly, and I'm not speaking disparagingly on this person, but it was a mind opening thing for me. This person, I did a big Q&A, got like a ton of questions, and this person who, whenever I do a Q&A, is always going to be there, always going to ask 10 questions. And I had a moment with this person. I was like, hey, I scrolled up through my DM thread with them, and I'm like, you've asked the same question 95 times already, and I've answered it. And here's the crazy part. The first time I gave them the answer to that question was in the middle of 2023. And they're still asking the same question. And the question was effectively like, who do you use for X, Y, and Z? And it really hit me then that the people who, and I called them out, and it's like, respectfully, the fuck is wrong with you? Like,
Bro,
this is just, it's 2023, it's 2025 now. It's been almost 2 years since you first asked this question. I've given you the same answer 15 times ever since. Like, why haven't you, like, what's going on? Why aren't you doing the things? Why aren't you having conversations with them? Why haven't you started the service? Why haven't you started taking action to any degree? And this person hit me with so many excuses. And one of them, very, very, very reasonable, and then said, hey, I had a death in the family. Oh, respect, right? And I'm never going to demean someone and hit them while they're down. And then they followed up with saying that the death in the family was 2 years ago.
oh man.
Not yesterday, 2 years ago. And I get that. I totally get that. And people take time to get over loss and grief and mourning. And I'm so sympathetic to that. But if the death was 2 years ago, and it's ever since you've been in my DMs 25, 30, 40, 50 times asking the same thing, is it not disrespectful to use the death as like an excuse for why you're not doing the things now? Because you've been in my DMs asking ever since. The grieving didn't stop you from asking, but conveniently, the grieving now is stopping you from taking action.
Like applying what you're saying.
Exactly. And one thing is this, and I'm coming down to this person, but the reality to me is that people who don't want it enough are going to bullshit themselves as much as humanly possible and manufacture excuses for why they don't do anything. And then it's relative passed away, kids, jobs, all the things. And then there's people like you who are like, well, I have a few distractions, so I'm just going to leave the freaking country. And I'm just like, shit. Like, props to you, man. So I appreciate the willingness to get it done. And also you're young, right? You're super young. You've got the ability to do it right now. You don't have as many logistical drags as someone with like a wife and kids may have. And so I appreciate that you're willing to do it. I think it's going to be an amazing season for you that you can take with you for a long time. And so, but let's get into it. I want to hit on this. Let's start diving into your business. Let's do this. Start with giving us a little bit of a background so people know what business is the main business. What are we mainly going to be talking about? And give us some rough idea, some rough numbers. So what are you doing? How much money you guys making? What's the goal, especially this year? Those are like the three most important things.
Totally. And I just want to start by first just glazing real quick. Just I appreciate you taking the time to get me on here. And it's also people like you that post online that truly document the real and give genuine value. And it's especially you're young too. And it's people that like document that. And that's what makes people like me that I'm doing this all the time. And obviously you kind of feel like very on your own sometimes. I guess Hermosi says, we both love Hermosi, the lonely chapter, but like you give it real. And I just wanted to acknowledge that and show my appreciation. For sure. And so to answer your question, I'm wholesaling real estate. That's the main business. And monetarily, the goals are 150K in revenue by the end of April. And then as we progress probably into the end of quarter two, June, somewhere not well defined, but loosely in that 250 to 350 range is the goal.
Okay, so we're trying to cross six figures, a little bit over six figures in revenue, basically coming up on the end of Q1, maybe by the end of April if we're pushing it. Q1's always slow, so it's okay if those things bleed over a little bit. And then basically by Q2, hopefully the goal is to be on a pace to consistently do a quarter for a quarter minimum. And if you extend that, right, if you let's say you hit 150K by April, and then Q2, Q3, Q4, you do a $250,000 per quarter, then you're basically like this freaking close to being a seven-figure operator, at least in revenue, which is awesome. Okay, so wholesale real estate. Now I need to understand, based on the business that you have and the model that you have and what you're running, I'm just going to ask you a few more questions, and I want to be able to get a feel for what's going on. So what does your team look like right now?
So right now I'm basically a one-man show, and so I'm gonna hire soon. I have that set, but right now I'm I'm doing PPL for marketing, and I'm taking all those leads myself. My cost per lead is high right now, so I told myself once I get the next 30K in assignments, I would then start PPC and then dial down PPL, so then I have both going, can get my cost per lead down. Lead to contract is around 1 in 15. This past couple of weeks have been pretty good, so I'm hovering around like 1 in 13, and that's kind of how that looks.
Why not run your own ads?
So I'm in Nick Perry's mentorship, and he's taught a lot about Google PPC and how to run ads. I've definitely taken a lot of time to learn the campaigns. I think some of it was, I guess, fear, where it was just like, I know that I'm going to lose to win $100 million leads. Hormozi screams it, you're going to lose in first. So I was like, I'm kind of in a period where I need to win now. I don't really have as much reserves as I need. So that's why I was like, I'd rather take it all myself, not hire, just trust myself to grind. That's why I'm here, and stack some more capital to then be able to diversify.
Okay, so you had an interesting juxtaposition, right? Because you're like, okay, well, I need to win. You need the short-term win right now because you need the revenue coming in to be able to reinvest in the business. And if you don't have that short-term revenue coming in, you're kind of dead in the water. I get that. Why are you using, let's just say, PPL? Because it is such a high spend thing, and the ROI is not fantastic. And the other problem that I personally see, and remember, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I was massively on the PPL train, and I spoke about it publicly so much. Now we're at a point where we just refuse to even do it, refuse to think about it. We don't care. And because I've got like a small brand, but it's a really potent brand. Like the people that follow me are all operators and they trust what I say. We've got PPL companies who are like, dude, we'll hook you up with free PPL leads. I'm just like, it doesn't matter what you hook me up with, because when I send Ryan over and he starts doing things, the problem is you're not going to give him the best leads. And my one concern that I have with that industry, and this is also the concern that Pace has, and amongst a lot of people who've done the thing, it's the lack of control that you have, especially when you're trying to establish a foundation for your business. The tricky thing is, how can you build a foundation on something you cannot control? And so I get it. If things go right for you the next couple of months and it all goes right, then yes, you'll have the money, your foundation is set, and then you can pour it into the PPC side on your own. Awesome. But I want you to prepare. What if shit doesn't go right? What if 3 out of 4 of your contracts on a monthly basis, fall out because of child support liens and all these other things that you can't account for? At that point, are you profitable enough to keep going? Or is this going to be what we call this sunk cost fallacy? And sunk cost fallacy is one of the most important things ever. It's something that I'm very quick to try to call myself out on because it keeps me accountable. In sunk cost fallacy, I'm gonna Google it because I feel like the Google definition is perfect for it. And I want you to be, I'm not saying that you have this going on, but I want you to start understanding when being able to spot it in yourself when you do start tripping that line. And so sunk cost fallacy, a phenomenon whereby a person is reluctant to abandon a strategy or course of action because they have invested heavily in it, even when it is clear that abandonment would be more beneficial. And so this is basically what we see with a lot of guys in the PPL. I know this guy who's done like $80,000 of mentorship, and they all push PPL. The reason why influencers push PPL is if I'm getting paid 10%, and if you're like a bigger influencer who can send a lot of people, it's going to be 15 to 20%. It's a lot higher. If I'm getting paid, let's just say 15% of everyone that I send over, and I get 50% of every transaction, and you're buying leads for 2, 3, $400, and then you in the course of the next 6 months buy 100 leads, it's a lot of freaking money, right? It's not necessarily because people are running their businesses on these channels. Very often when you hear people talking about it, they're going to talk about the things that pays them the most money at the end of the day. And I want you to be careful about that, especially as you're building a foundation, because foundations are, if they're not built right, they will crumble, right? And so I want you to get into a system that you have more control over sooner rather than later. And when you when you get to PPC, do you know if you're going to go agency, or do you think you're going to do it on your own?
There's someone in the Nick Perry group that I've gotten pretty close with. Doesn't really want me advertising his name, but he's going to run the ads for me, and he has a proven track record. And I know that I'm going to pay him a monthly, probably like 1,500, $2K a month to run the ads, and he's done it for other people. So I'm confident that he'll deliver solid ads. So that's kind of how I was going to go about that. For this month, I'm probably all in like 6, 7K in PPL, which is, like you said, it's a lot, and you don't necessarily have complete control. So the leads that I've gotten have been pretty quality, and they have a pretty decent refund policy. But again, it's not, that's short term, not long term. So
Yeah.
I'm probably coming across year 3 in wholesale, and I've only done cold call and like kind of loose direct to agent, but primarily cold calling. And then I've always done like some JV dispo on the side. Cold calling, I probably just wasn't consistent enough, to be completely honest. I'll take accountability. I probably still have like 500-600 leads sitting in my CRM, some of which are dead, some of which are still being nurtured. So from time to time, I'll call some of them. I also have someone else that I have like a JV split with that calls some of them. So those are still being called, not complete energy. So I was like, right now, like I said, I kind of want to get the win. I'd rather spend more in the PPL to then get it. I have 5 properties under contract. 4 of the 5 are novations. So that's kind of where that end of April, Q2 goal is attributed to. So I'm confident that from that, even if it's only a 50% close rate, I'll have the PPC money and a little bit more, and then kind of cook off that.
Okay, sounds good. Let's do this. What constraint do we want to solve for? So like let's just dive into some questions, and then we can figure this out, because the good thing is it's a one-man show. If you're doing PPL digital inbound, as long as the provider is good, and as long as the provider is, they've got good policies, they're not sharing leads, all the, the shit that other PPL companies do. If you've got a good one, great, run it, right? If it's not broken, don't fix it. Awesome. And the good thing is, on a personnel capacity, you don't necessarily need more people right now to hit your goals. Like, the reality is, if you've got a good PPL or PPC provider and you're a one-man show and you're full-time like you are, and you're, in Mexico with no distractions around you, then 100% you can become a one-man $1 million a year show for sure, especially if you're pushing cash contracts for cash wholesale and not diving too much into the creative side. Creative is great. It's great for rental acquisition, but not so great if you're trying to make as much money as possible from a wholesale perspective. So, okay, let's start with this. What problems do you want to solve for? What questions do you have?
So questions, I guess, would be on the hiring side and the scaling side would be those two. So I guess that question that I put in the chat, I'm very curious your take on. I think that'd be really helpful to know.
Good. Okay, so here we go. How long would you spend on your onboarding training for new hires, closers, and wholesale, and how exactly would you go about that onboarding and training? Okay, so I want to be specific here. Do you mean how long would you, as the business owner, spend onboarding and training a new hire, or are you saying how long should you take to build out the systems and the processes?
I guess both. Like, I'd love to, if you have the time, I'd love to get granular. I was thinking to, once I do ready to hire, I set a 70K goal in assignments to start hiring. So I do have a little bit of reserve budget for a couple months, and I was thinking hire 2 closers at a time, because it's the same effort to train 2 versus 1 is what I was thinking. So I was kind of curious, like, let's say like you could set up all the Loom videos in the world. I have some, I studied your big 3, a lot of specific, like onboarding to like have the Loom video with the written description and then like pictures to match. So I'm trying to put those together. So I guess between that time frame, but I guess like, let's just say you have some stuff set, and you commit to 2 hires, how much time are you taking them? How much SAM time are you giving them up front?
Great question. So, one, at scale, it's not going to be you, right? It's going to be a sales director or sales team manager who's going to handle all this. But in the beginning,
Yes.
it's going to be you. But what I want to do is I want to backtrack a little bit because other people are going to have the same question. This is why the next Signature Masterclass is going to be about hiring and building and training. Pace, I love Pace. He actually just sent me someone today who, and if it's Pace sends someone, like I'll have to get on the phone call and and give them as much value as possible. And this person's doing about $500,000 a year in profit, is effectively like a 2-person operation, and they're running into the same constraints, right? So for anyone who is in this position, you want to build a team. Number one, do not hire from any community you're in. I don't give a shit. I don't give a damn how good they are, how quality they are, what the culture is of the community. They will leave you. They're there to learn the process, and then as soon as possible, as soon as they have some money, right? As soon as Ryan has his 30,000 to go ahead and deploy into the service fees and this, that, and the other, he's done with PPL. When you have a closer who learns the process, understands how leads are generated, and they make their 30 grand, you can, like, they're gone. They're piecing out. And so, number one, do not hire from a community or a mentorship or a mastermind. They're all there to be their own person. They're not there to be an employee for you. Very important. Number two, you're going to go to Indeed, right? Or jobs.com or whatever the hell other job posting sites you want to use. And 100%, as far as lead managers and closers, you can have overseas talent. I would recommend ideally somewhere in Latin America or Egypt. In my personal experience, I think Egypt has just been the absolute best pound for pound. But Latin America is achieving some amazing things, and there's some amazing quality of talent coming out of Latin America, where you can have people become actual closers for $5, $6, $7 an hour. And so way more potential there, right? Way more profit margin too. And so once you've got that, right, your big thing is this: I don't want you hiring until you have a thoroughly developed Indeed job posting, right? A filtering process on the job posting that ideally funnels to a personality assessment. I like predictiveindex.com. And so for anyone that isn't familiar, everyone here, no matter how unique you think you are not. Like, seriously, you're not. Like, you're either Alex Hormozi, Pace Morby, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, or you're everybody else. And everyone else, we can all be broken down into like one of like 100 avatar categories, no matter how special we actually think we are. And predictiveindex.com, amongst other personality assessment tools, has done a phenomenal job breaking down people's character traits and understanding their compatibility with a specific role. So once you send people to Indeed, they respond to a job posting. And here's an important thing for your job posting. Make sure, I just keep seeing this. This was a big constraint that I saw at this mastermind that I was in. And these are people, like, don't get me wrong, these are people running $1 million businesses, multi-million dollar businesses, and they're still getting this wrong. So like, you're ahead of the curve here. And they didn't understand that in your job posting, one of the most fundamental things you need to do is have a section that doesn't say who you are, it's who you are not. Because unless you stipulate who you are not, you're going to get the wrong people constantly going in. From the job posting, then to predictiveindex.com or a personality tool if you can afford it. Spoiler, predictiveindex.com is pretty pricey, but it's for people who are scaled. It's important to have the right hire. Because when you put up that job posting, you may get 100 freaking applicants, right? And you don't want to interview 100 people. You want to make sure that you're talking to the 5, 10, 15 right people who actually deserve your time and attention. Put them through the predictive index tool. It will basically narrow out based on your position. And just so you guys know, lead manager and closer, very similar job ideas and roles, right? Because one, nurtures the lead, follows up, appointment sets for the closer to come in and get it signed on the dotted line. Very different skill sets. And no one realizes that. Everyone thinks that you can blur the lines and one can be both, or you, like, a guy who's a good lead manager could be a good closer. Totally different skill sets. And also totally different skill set for someone who's a sales manager. A big constraint that I saw in the boardroom mastermind, there was this guy who's a friend of mine. His company makes like $4 million a year. Makes a lot of freaking money. And this past 12 months, they've had this really big issue with sales directors. And he broke rule number one, which is he elevated a closer to a directorial position, like a sales manager or sales director position. And so he took his top revenue generators, who were the best on the phones at closing the deal, getting people to sign on the dotted line and give them money. He took them out of that position and said, hey, your job now is to come over here and then manage everybody. And so that is a totally different skill set as well. And that is also the mistake that 95% of people in the industry make, is they take their top closer who's really good at closing deals, understands all this stuff, and they're like, your shit, you're good at it. Let's put you in a managerial position so you can train others. The problem is a good performer may not be a good coach. This is why if you have Kobe in his prime, the last thing you're going to do is take him off the court and then tell him to coach, right? You don't want to do that. And so once you go through the predictive index, you're going to basically, and that's going to help find the people who are compatible for lead manager, follow-up specialist, closer, whatever the role is, sales manager. You're going to do that. The good thing is predictive index does a lot of that. Then I want you to put them through minimum a 2 to 3 step interview process. This is where everyone F's up in the industry, especially in the communities that we're in. They'll do a phone call or they'll do a Zoom, and it's a vibe check. And that's all it is. It's, hey, yeah, we've got leads. We're doing the thing. We need your help. Do you know a lot about sales? Are you good? It's very loose. It's very like loosey-goosey, and it's just stupid and nothing gets done. And then they bring the person on, and because everything went perfect, right? Because they were a perfect vibe. Problem is, the point of a 2 to 3 step interview process after the applicant's gotten through predictive index is not to see if they are a good vibe. It is to see if they can pass through filters. The point of those 2 to 3 steps is to disqualify them, right? So when you have leads come in, your job should not be to qualify the lead. Your job is to disqualify the lead to make sure it's not a waste of your time. Same thing goes with people. And so you want to have a 2 to 3 step interview process. My perspective is right off the bat, a 15-minute kind of phone call. 15 to 30-minute phone call. Ideally, eventually it's going to be a sales director who does this. Right now it's you, and that's totally okay. It's going to be a 15-minute phone call, and that is immediately just saying, cool, this is the position, this is the industry, this is the company, this is what we do. Are you familiar? And within 15 minutes, you'll be able to tell, is this person brand spanking new who has no idea what they're doing? Or if they've had a ton of experience, they're super cool with this, and you'll be able to gauge that based on how they articulate their background really quickly. If they pass that, right? And your point is filtering. So if they're brand new, never done anything before, great, love you, but you're not going to learn on my dime. Straight up, right? You can get better on my dime, but I'm not going to take you from 0 to 1 because I'm just sinking money in you at this point. Second one, where you get to a Zoom, right? Ideally a Zoom or in person. If you guys are running an office, that's totally okay too. The Zoom one is going to be a much more thorough breakdown. And this is where you want to start getting really granular, okay? And people hate this, but it's also true. So if they have a family, and you and me, you're going to run into the same problems that I've run into almost every step of the way with hiring. And it's that in literally every business that I own, I am the CEO or founder, owner, whatever, and I am the youngest person in the entire operation. I am younger than all my virtual assistants. I'm younger than all my American employees. I'm younger than all my partners. Everyone is older than me, which means also everyone is like married and has kids and has all these other things. And so I want you to start spotting disqualifier questions, right? And pitching disqualifier questions for all people. So, hey, Amanda, great to meet you. You've got experience. I love this. It sounds like you'd be a potentially really good fit. Here's my thought process though. You've got like 3 kids, right? Yeah. Are they in school? Are they homeschool, public school? Okay, cool. Public school. Sweet. Are you dropping them off, picking them up every day? Because I know you said full time, but if you're dropping them off at 8 a.m. and we have an in-person office, or you're making calls, when are you going to be able to get to the desk and start making calls? Is it 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11? Because then we have to factor in a break for you. If your kids are getting off right around like usually 2:30 to 3 p.m., kind of that's like when school typically ends across the country for the most part. You got 3 kids who are in middle school, high school, elementary, whatever. Like you got to go pick them up, right? All good. Does that mean now you're not full-time? Because when you aggregate, an extra hour and a half in the morning, an extra hour and a half to 2 hours in the evening or the afternoon across 5 days a week, it's not 40 hours a week. You're like at 30 hours a week, right? And then now we're talking about paying you a full-time salary. And so no one teaches you to look out for this shit. And how did I learn to look out for that shit? When I hired someone who had 3 kids, and then I was like, damn. And the problem is you want to get that done ahead of time and either just account for it in your comp plan with them and just say, hey, you know what? you aren't going to be a true fit for full-time. How about we go part-time, 20, 30 hours a week, and we go from there so you have the flexibility you need as a mom. What we don't want to do is hire you full-time because we have that expectation, find out 2 weeks later, right? And then it's a problem because we're basically overpaying you. And you want to get all that stuff out up front as soon as humanly possible. And when you start going the extra little step with these questions, you're going to start uncovering who you thought was an amazing fit and who ends up not being an amazing fit.
Bro, that's so much value right there. I literally paid $10K to learn about the P&I index as well as the multiple rounds of like with directors and whatnot. So for everyone listening, like Sam is truly always giving the value. Just want to point that out.
Huge. Yeah, dude. It's funny. I learned about predictive index the first time I learned about it was in a $25,000 mastermind or mentorship program. And I'm just like, just fucking tell people where to go.
Make a video about that.
Yeah, just tell people where to go. It's okay. And here's the cool thing. So once you go through all that, right? Now they've gone through the second point, and now they're ready for onboarding. Awesome. I typically like a 1 to 2 week onboarding process. And the first week is extremely intensive, right? The first week, it's like a lot of shadowing. They need to understand what you do. They need to understand expectations. They need to understand culture. And that first week, all you're really doing, in my opinion, outside of the tactical stuff of your business, your role, your position, is get a feel for who we are as a company and what our core values are. In all of my businesses, like a shocking thing for so many people is how big we are on speed. And it's funny, it's something that I've adopted. It wasn't always a big thing until I started hanging around with enough guys who make over 50 million a year. And like almost all of them in their top 3 core values, speed is going to be one of them. Guaranteed. No matter which industry you're in, speed, like time kills all deals, not just in real estate, in product sales, in e-commerce, in selling education. Shit, I'm sure even in OnlyFans, speed matters to a degree. You know, actually, yeah, because someone's emotional. Yeah, exactly. So understand that first week is for them to shadow, get acclimated, and understand your culture. And here's the thing. In that first week, you'll very quickly be able to see if someone's like a good culture fit or not based on, you ever been around with someone like in school or on a trip, whatever, you meet them and like 2 hours later, y'all are best friends. And it was like the most seamless friendship ever. It should be like that. Yeah, it should be like that. Right. And then in week 2, this is when, as long as you train them properly, and we'll get into the minutiae of training in a minute. Week 2 is now they're starting to get their hands into the mix. They're starting to put the headset on and dial the sellers, right? So here's what training should look like. You 1,000%. If you're hiring off Indeed, you have to have the expectation that they don't know everything you know, and they shouldn't, and that's okay. Number one, you need to understand where they're at in their real estate acumen, right? And because you probably have chatted with a ton of agents who've been career agents for 20, 30 years, and they don't know jack shit about real estate.
Yep.
Just the truth. I'm sorry to any real estate agents who see this. It's the truth. In fact, across most of the country, learning how to comp is not required training as to be an agent. It's why y'all don't make money. I'm sorry. You don't even understand how to value freaking property. It's why you can't sell them. And so I have to learn restraint sometimes. Marlon always tells me, like, Sam, you got to start saying no comment more often. Exactly, right. I don't know. One day when I launch like a mentorship, I'll probably start doing that stuff. Here's the cool thing. Week 1, acumen, basics. We do wholesale. This is what that is. Sales, marketing, all that kind of good stuff. Learn how to comp a property, learn how to have basic conversations, learn how to nurture a lead. And I think scripts are useful in the beginning when you're training these people because they need to understand a framework. I don't actually like scripts. I should change that. I want them to understand frameworks, right? And a few weeks ago, we did a 2-part series on sales processes. So we covered Sandler Submarine, then we covered the closer framework, and then we covered NEPQ by Jeremy Miner in 7th level, which are phenomenal.
I was there for that one.
Yeah, those are phenomenal sales training processes. And NEPQ is definitely going to be the highest level one applicable to real estate, in my opinion. And so what you're going to do is you're going to put them through a lot of these basics. understand that they're going to suck, and understand that they're probably going to fail, and understand that they're going to kind of bullshit when they're on the phone with sellers. And that is okay. In a previous industry of mine, I actually quickly learned that the greatest skill set you can have is to be a professional bullshitter. Because once you do that, it just gets you through conversations. It gets you through the process. And in the beginning, that's all you're gauging for, right? They'll learn how to comp better. They'll learn how to structure deals better. They'll learn how to pitch terms better. But in the beginning, you just need them to apply a framework to get a lead from point A to point B with some loose filtering in between, and they can move the lead forward. And the most important thing is this. I think this is what people screw up on. And it's because they see it. They're like, okay, cool. Sam said, to answer your question, Sam said 2 weeks and then 2 weeks and then I'm out, right? No, 2 weeks is just a starting point. The reality is, like, a lot of people, they want to hire someone and then have half-ass training for 3-4 days, put them on the phone, and then pull back all levels of support. And then just say, yeah, if you need me, like, let me know. They are not going to let you know. You've just thrown them to the wolves, and then you're going to be surprised why they churn out in less than 30 days. It's because you didn't set them up to succeed. So once you put them through the 2 weeks of just fundamental training, and they're now hitting the phone, here's the most important thing, in my opinion. It is having rapid feedback loops. And so this is something that we are absolutely, like, just gangster about right now in our businesses. All of my businesses, in lending, wholesaling, rental properties, we're even applying this in self-storage targeting, and in the other portfolio business outside of real estate, businesses outside of real estate. We're really focused on, every time we do anything, I want to expedite the amount of time that goes by for me to try a theory, try a process, try something, and then us get data back on if it worked, if it didn't, and why. And that's the most important thing. So with these people, sales reviews, call reviews, right? In the beginning, week 2, when they're starting to train and hit the phones, they do a call. You need to spend 30 freaking minutes after the end of that call going over the tape. And people hate that. I hate call reviews. I don't want to sit there and listen to you have a 30-minute conversation with the seller. But in the beginning, you need to do that as much as humanly possible. So in my opinion, that first month is so critical, because you're going to have the structured onboarding infrastructure stuff. And then that's, week 1, 1.5, maybe week 2. The reality is, by the end of week 2, you have an extra 2 weeks of just disgusting levels of sales training, which is just live feedbacking. So I was a tennis player in college. That was like my big thing, right? That was a huge reason for why I'm super competitive. And the thing in tennis, it's called live drills. And so you could have handheld drills where, you're at the baseline at the starting point, and then you're basically swinging and someone is dropping a ball for you, right? It's very controlled. Yeah. They're taking the ball right here. I'm right next to it. I'm getting ready to swing. They drop the ball. There is no force on that ball. There's no momentum. There's no spin. It's just a ball in a vacuum. That's great. But when you get to match day, is that ball in a vacuum, or did someone hit that ball right back at you at 70, 80, 90, maybe 120 miles an hour, right? Different scenario in the real world. It has spin, it has momentum, it has energy, it has all of these things that are happening, and you need to be able to account for all of them. And so I spent a lot of time in my tennis journey doing ball feeding drills, and I got good. I got really good at that. And my match and tournament play suffered. And when I got to the college side of things, then everything became live drilling. And then when you get to a Division I college level, it's actually really cool. They'll do some ball feeding stuff, but 90% of what they do is you stand over here, other guy on the other side of the net, and you guys are just going to keep hitting back and forth because you need to be able to mimic real scenarios. And so I like the onboarding, the infrastructure of having sales processes in a course material, but that's great because it's all in a vacuum. Real life sales calls go wonky, right? Real life sales calls go crazy. Shit happens in the background. They're distracted. The dog's barking. All the things can go wrong. And your guys need to be able to get on the phone, have the call, have shit go wrong, and then spend 30 minutes with you going over it, breaking it down. And most importantly, not just telling them, and this is one of the big things I see a lot of people miss in sales training, is they just tell them what went wrong, instead of having the person articulate to you, what do you think went right? What do you think you could have done better? And what do you think was a catastrophic failure based on your perspective? And what you're going to find is, and it's so critical to ask that. And here's the thing, ask it even if you know all the right answers, because the right answers, are not totally the most important thing. You're trying to understand that person's thought process and how they consume and process information. And that's the biggest thing. And so everyone knows that I have a business partner. Her name is Sasha. She's phenomenal. Sasha is the polar opposite of me as a human being. I'm hard-headed, I'm stubborn, I have a very like cut and dry way of talking about things. I'm very much a tactician. Sasha's like empathetic and she's compassionate and she's sweet and she's all these things that make her really good at her job and running the business. But when I onboarded her and brought her into the mix, it took me like 4 months to just start understanding her way of looking at the world. And it was polar opposite of mine. And if I didn't, and every step of the way, I always wanted her to articulate to me how she saw things, how she felt, what went right, what went wrong. And I also tried to, as much as possible, let her come to me with the solution. And when you do that, you are empowering them to critically think. And the good thing about that is that someone who starts critically thinking, and you are giving them the freedom to have a level of input in the dialogue, they stop viewing you necessarily as this dictator boss. And they're like, this is a leader, right? There's a difference between a boss and a leader allows for input. So that first 30 days, man, it's critical. Yes, the onboarding is important. The interview is important. All the filters that are just to get them out the door, or, if they're not a fit. First week, very much elementary basics, ease our way into this, right? Week 2, they're hitting the phones. They're doing the thing. They're causing chaos. They're probably burning a shit ton of leads too. And that is okay and to be expected. Weeks 3 and 4, we are just in as many feedback loops as possible. And this is an issue that I think a lot of people don't realize. And this is why they set up their sales guys to fail. In the beginning, they will do one-on-ones once a week. And I think for the first 3-4 weeks, you should be doing a one-on-one almost daily. And it doesn't have to be hyper structured. It can be very informal, right? And for you, this is going to be easy because you're not running a massive operation. The guys who have 20, 30 guys, it becomes very difficult for them to do that. For you, it's easy because you're going to work very hand in hand with this person. But as you grow, that first like 3-4 weeks, once a day with your sales manager, sales director, or you. And then once they're through that period and they've paid back a ton of ignorance debt through your feedback loops, then you're going to cycle back to doing once a week one-on-ones. And the important thing is this, is you need to have scorecards across the goal. And the entire way through, they need to have scorecards that they are signing off on. Here's the other thing. You need to have them sign. And it is so important. I've tried it a million different ways and I've settled on this and no one can change my mind about this. When you bring these guys on, you need them, whether they're right or wrong, it's attainable or not, it doesn't matter. You need them to explicitly, and I mean in writing, set goals themselves on how many offers they want to make, how much revenue they want to close, how many deals they want to close in a given period. You need to set a goal for them as an individual and for the team as a whole, right? That's kind of like the stipulated one. They're going to sign off on that. I'm agreeing to hit this. Cool. You also want them to have a goal themselves. And ideally, it's going to be an aggressive goal and it's going to be over what you set the bar at. And they're going to sign off on that too. And that document is your holy grail during your one-on-ones. Here's our goal that you and I both agreed on. We both signed on. We both said we're going to pursue this goal right here in front of you that you signed. That's your signature, right? Cool. Here's your scorecard this week. Now you're 4 weeks in. I'm all good with you. You're still learning. Totally. We have grace. Not a problem at all, right? My issue is that you're not even making the calls, right? Wednesday, you made 50. Tuesday, you made 10. Like, what's going on, right? If you want to have your 5 offers a day out or 5 offers a week out or 10 offers, whatever the number is, like the KPIs have to track towards that. And the whole point of the one-on-ones is not to be punitive. And this is important. When people go to one-on-ones, they feel nervous naturally, right? You're getting called in the principal's office. You want to use the one-on-ones as just safe feedback sessions and say, hey, your numbers are great, or we need to pull this up a little bit more. Where do you need support? And the important thing is this: you're going to let it slide if they're screwing up. It's all good. Let it slide once or twice. Not a problem at all. They're learning. That's the point. And you want them to feel comfortable coming to you with the problem, because what you don't want to do is come down punitively. They don't share the real problem with you, and then they churn out. You hire the next guy and run the same cycle. You want to create an environment where people feel safe coming to you. This was also, by the way, an extremely difficult thing for me and Sasha because she's so sweet and kind and empathetic, and I'm just kind of like a jerk. So I had to check myself to make sure that I can create an environment where she feels safe coming to me if there's ever an issue. And if you do it right, it's amazing. It's perfect. And so what's going to happen though is they're going to start screwing up. And let's pretend they're a bad egg and they mess up over and over and over again, and you've given them all the leeway in the world. Then do you know what a PIP is? Have you ever heard of that?
PIP? No, I have not.
Okay, so a PIP, it's PIP, right? And it stands for Performance Improvement Plan. And so basically, it's like they're kind of like being put on academic probation, like in school, right? It's like, hey, you failed some tests, it's all good. We thought we're going to fix it. Semester rolled out, you failed your finals, pattern's still there. Rolling to the next semester, you're failing more grades. It looks like you're just going to fail the year, right? Why are we here? What are we doing? Why do you even show up, right? And the PIP is you coming together with this person and ironing out a game plan based on what they say they're willing to do, right? It's not like, hey, you need to do this, this, and this, or you're fired. It's, hey, here's all the issues. Here's all the patterns I'm seeing. I'm not saying this is you, but when we do see these patterns, we can almost guarantee the person isn't going to last. And I think you want to be here. We want you to be here, but we need to fix this. What do you think we should do? And they are going to just start vomiting about all the things they're going to do to make it right, this, that, and the other. Great. Put it on paper. And you're going to put it on a PIP, a performance improvement plan, and they're going to say, cool, over the next 2-3 weeks, whatever, I'm going to make X amount of dials, make X amount of offers. I'm going to go and attend, that sales training course that you gave them for NEPQ or Closer or Sandler. And you can see, because it's on Trainual or you gave it to them through Kajabi, and you can see they only consume 20% of the course and not 100. That can be on it. Right now, you got to go and finish 100 and take a quiz at the end of the showcase to me that you're learning the things, you're learning the fundamentals, and then sign off on the PIP. That gives you ammunition for the next week. If shit isn't right, love you, you're fired. And here's the key. This setup, it's accountable, it's trackable, it will work on your skills as a leader who's communicating with the team. Here's the important thing. A lot of people are worried about like commissions and comp plans and all these things. Just so you know, it is almost impossible to hold people to these structures and processes if they're only on commission. Because commission people are commission people. It's just it. They like freedom, right? If you want to have this level of structure, they need level of structure from you. And that's going to come through the process of actually giving them a guaranteed amount of pay. And so I'm an advocate, especially in real estate. And this doesn't apply, it may not apply to every business, but this does apply to real estate wholesale acquisition specifically, is a salary plus commission model. 95% of the time, when we see people who have high churn businesses in acquisitions, almost always one of the reasons is their full commission. There's no loyalty to that, none at all. And trust me, you can give someone. I've done a model where I had people on at 33% commission, which is freaking ridiculous, right? 33% commission. Just so you guys know, for a full commission business, the industry average is about 10%, 10 to 15% for a closer. I was doing 33%, not of profit, but of revenue on the deal, because I wanted to do the social experiment. And here's the crazy thing. Everyone there passed all of our filters, all the things. They had all the skill sets. I attracted the most supremely lazy, unreliable people ever. And I didn't just have one, by the way. I had like 50. We did this mass group thing to test it out. And I had like probably the most unreliable group of people I've ever seen. And here's the crazy thing. And they were the most entitled people too. They thought 33% was enough. I'm like, cool. You're cancer to culture. Peace out. Now, when you go to Indeed, here's the other problem. People who are searching late at night on Indeed job postings, they got bills to pay. They've got they need stability. And the good thing about these people is if you can provide them the stability, they will freaking ride or die for you, because you're actually paying their bills, right? Their kids get to go, you get to put food on the table for them. The problem with commission only freelancers is very often they're just like you. They're super young, can live super cheap. So it doesn't matter if they make some money next month or not, because they're living for like $1,000 a month, right? And then, but when you have a man who's got a wife and a kid on the way, and he's got a mortgage and insurance and all these things, like he will work his ass off because he's got a deadline. He's got, other things on the other side that he needs to pay for.
Needs some stability too.
100% income stability will attract the right talent, in my opinion. And so in the beginning, a tiered salary plus commission, depending on if it's a lead manager or like a follow-up specialist or a closer position, anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000 on a base salary that is like a monthly guarantee. On top of that, a tiered minor commission based on the revenue that they lock up. Now, obviously, the commissions are going to get paid out if the deal actually closes. It's not guaranteed because the deal falls through. It doesn't matter, right? And I like a tiered commission structure, but it's up to you to figure that one out and like what it's going to be based on your marketing spend. Obviously, this is why I don't like PPL or other high spend marketing channels, is because it's eating up all your profits and you can't invest those profits in better talent. And trust me, talent has a higher multiplier on it than the marketing channel ever could. And it took me very long to actually realize and understand that. So when I started pulling back on all this high spend bullshit channels that all the influencers were telling me to do, what ended up happening is our business were more profitable. And then we could use that as financial incentives to pour and attract better pools of people. And I'm going to talk about this on our signature masterclass. You don't have to do this. I'm going to dive into it really deep on the masterclass. We're now at a point where we're rolling out health benefits and we're 401k contribution matching to retirement accounts and to pay for people's dental. And they're like applying it and they can extend it to their kids. I don't even have kids and I'm paying for another, like some random kid's dental. And I'm like, dude, best thing ever. You know what's happening with that?
Awesome.
We are attracting the best freaking talent possible. Because when I start doing all of that, dude, at 21, do you give a shit if I contribute to your 401k?
Absolutely not.
No, you probably don't even know. Like you're like, you probably don't really understand what a 401k is yet. Do you care about your dental? You're like,
I mean,
nah,
I'll never be in the matrix, so hopefully I don't need that. So, but I know what you mean.
Well, dude, I mean, like even dental, right? Dental insurance. You're like, dude, I'm in Mexico. I can go down the street for like $50 and get whatever fixed. It's all good. The reality is the people who care about benefits, insurance, 401k contributions, like retirement contributions, dental, and extending it to their family, you're attracting people who are in a different season of life. They're more mature. They're more reliable. They know how to communicate better, right? They're not a young person who's just flying by the seat of their pants. And very often the benefit for you for effectively the same cost, right? Not much more to roll out benefits and all this stuff. Actually, I'm in California. It's a lot more here, but whatever. You're going to attract a talent pool that comes to you with 20 years extra life experience. Bro, I'm in my 20s. I don't even have that. Like, and they're coming to me with 20 years of professional adult life experience that is intangible to your business. And so salary, commission structure in the beginning, when you really start finding all-star players and you have, and like, don't get me wrong, it's not going to matter for like a follow-up specialist. It's not what you do for them. But when you have a sales director or you've got managers who, you want to keep in the business for a long time, all of these things end up becoming massive sticking points.
So I got a couple questions just kind of that came to mind here. So I guess for starters, when you were talking about when you had that group of players that was all on commission that weren't delivering, were those people Indeed or were those from communities?
Oh, when I had them on the 33% commission?
Yeah.
Oh, they were all from the communities. They were all from the ecosystem. Shit, dude, most of them knew, I would say at least 30% of them probably knew more about real estate than I did. And Marlon likes hiring failed entrepreneurs. Marlon likes hiring failed entrepreneurs because, they've already tried the thing and they've kind of extinguished it and they kind of accepted that they're just not going to make it as business owners. And so they'll just work for someone else. And that's okay too. My thing is this, I just wanted to do it. It didn't cost us anything because like that lead channel was so astronomically cheap and we just had so many leads. We're like, let's run it. Let's pour and let's get the data for ourselves, right? On what ends up happening. Learn the lesson, bro. Like I'm not giving that 4 months of my life back, but I know to never make that mistake ever again. And a lot of times people are like, well, I want to hire from the ecosystem because they know creative financing and they know how to pitch terms and they know all the fancy shit. Yeah. And if they're 100%, and if they do, and they're not making money already, and if they're willing to come and work for you for, 10% commission, they probably suck. Because if they were good and worthwhile and at executing, if they know more about real estate than you do or business than you do, right? Or they're competent And if they were executors, they wouldn't be working for you for 10% commission. Spoiler, they'd be doing their own thing. So there's something else going on in their character profile that is causing them to even say yes to this. And trust me, at some point they're going to wise up and they're going to be like, why the hell am I working for Ryan? Like, I could just go do this myself, right? And the other reason that I don't like hiring from communities is this. Nothing against the communities. I'm very candid about this, having been in all the masterminds that I'm in. The person at the top of the room, the leader of the mastermind, they have an intention for what they're trying to do in their group. So very often their job is to continually put shiny objects in front of these people all the time. And when you hire from communities that they're, in communities that they exist, the problem is this, is you need them to focus on their job and their work and the leads in front of them. The problem with them is the second insert influencer comes out with a new program that costs 20 grand, they think that if they don't get that, they're going to fail at life and you're going to 100%. And so they will always have more loyalty to that program than they will ever have to you. And that shiny object stuff, when you go to people from Indeed, like people on Indeed, they're not in all these communities. They just want a job, right? They don't have any of this stuff going on. They don't have these shiny objects in front of them. Their shiny object from people from Indeed, bro, it's that they get the weekends off. That's their shiny object. They just want to like chill on the weekends. And I'm like, dude, if I want to run a predictable business, that is the perfect type of person for me. Right. And 100%. These are all things that, I mean, it's sad. It took me 3 years to be able to learn all this stuff, 3.25 years with where we're at now. But now I'm like, dude, there's marketing resources in your systems and your processes, all these things. None of them have a higher intangible multiplier on return than talent does. But you have to learn how to attract and retain the right talent. That's going to be the big thing for you, dude.
That's gold. That's gold. And I am wondering kind of a follow-up on that. So when it comes to people, in regards to like a hiring plan, or just, I guess this would be a scaling question, are you analyzing from terms of a numbers profit standpoint of when to continuously add people to the team? Or are you just going to try and set a 12, 18 month, 36 month goal and then kind of just based off of those trajectories, throw people in? Or is it more numbers based?
Got you. So you're going to set revenue goals and profit goals that are based on marketing campaigns. So your marketing campaigns, because your marketing campaigns, depending on how much you're spending on them, what your cost per lead is, what your cost per contract is, all that marketing secret shit. All of that will dictate how long you need to wait before you can get tangible results. The people is how you backfill those numbers. So it's like, I want to make $250,000 in a quarter at 1-to-10 contract ratio. I need to generate 10 leads, to do a contract. If my average contract is like 20 grand, then I need to close, what is that? 25 deals, right? In the quarter. Cool. There's probably some newbie who's going to watch this. He's like, what the fuck did he just say?
100%.
As you guys can see, I reverse engineer numbers a lot in business. So you're going to have to generate 25 contracts, right? Over the course of that quarter. All good. A lot easier said than done, actually. Depends on the channel. The problem with PPC is this, is that let's just say you're outsourcing to an agency, right? You're not running the ads yourself. What you don't know is that very often there's a lot of wastage, right? Because they're not amplifying the ads or optimizing the pixel in real time or every single day. They're doing it once a week. And so you have a lot of bleed coming through. And because you're running a 20-30% just marketing burn, then like, okay, cool, that's a problem. And what ends up happening though is like your constraint in how often you hire, how many people you should hire is really just going to be based on the marketing channel and the spend correlated to generate the amount of leads that you need. So if you only need to close 25 contracts and it takes you and it's a 1-to-10 conversion rate on that, then you need to do, what is that? 250 leads, right? 250 leads across that quarter. Bro, one guy. That's all you need. You need one guy. Hire 2 at a time, right? Now, if you're running a lower optimal conversion rate marketing channel, not lower optimal, but like a lower total number, right? It's like now it's not 1 in 10, it's 1 in 30. Cool. Now you need 300 leads, right? Not enough for one guy. You're gonna need minimum 2 to 3 guys, right? So that's a thing that you need to be very kind of cognizant of. And I would say here's the golden rule of that I've also noticed all the way even for 8-figure guys is your 2 things. You're always hiring and you're always selling. So you're always hiring. You're going to be in a perpetual state of hiring. and you're always selling, or in your case in wholesale, you're always generating more leads. That's typically what that means, right? More leads, keep getting leads that you can close, and keep hiring more people. Why? Because one, it keeps the people who are in the system. Here's the reality. It's going to be thirds, right? You go hire 3 guys, okay? The rule of thirds for hiring. 3 of them are going to be amazing. Or if you hire 3 guys, one third is going to be amazing. One of them is going to be average, and one of them is going to be suck that you need to get out, right? But let's say you need to stabilize 3 people at all times, no matter what. Problem is, this third guy is always going to keep churning, and then you need to keep finding a replacement for him over and over and over again. So what you want to do is ideally get to a point where all 3 guys are killers because you've cycled the room enough times. And what's going to help you do that is for your guys who are on payroll right now to understand that you are constantly hiring. It is actually an amazing psychological trick for the guys in the sales room to see new people come into your office to do an interview. It goes to show them, hey, your position here isn't guaranteed forever, right? If you fuck up, we will hire and replace you because we have a business to run. And so there is something truly powerful about that. You should always be hiring, in my opinion, or always be fielding interviews. Like for us, dude, we hold interviews. Like we've kind of laid loose the last couple of months, but we were 100% just having conversations, looking at interviews, just storing the deck, because you're going to go through 20 people to find like the one goldmine person. And with that goldmine person, if you don't have a position for them, right, you just need to pull their application from the file, put it to the side. When time comes for you to have something big, right? Let's just say you have a pile of goldmine applicants, right? And there's 10 people in it. When the position does come around, you already have your 10 all-stars already ready to go. And hopefully one of them will still, need a spot. And then it allows you to execute on that new role a lot faster. Because if you didn't do that, you'd have the position for a new role, right? But now you have to wait 2-3 months because you have to go through the entire application, recruiting, interview process again. What if you just stored all of the super hot leads, right? And kept
them, and you're saving them, so you have them ready.
100%.
That's insane.
And so for me, just so you know, Sasha was almost completely that. Wow. When she first came on with us, we had her in a different position that she wasn't naturally suited for. I've told the story a bunch of times. And she wasn't naturally suited for that position. But I saw she was tremendously skilled for something else. I just didn't know what it was. And we didn't have something at the time. Eventually, the time came for us to launch like this kind of dispo operation that was like fun. And I'm like, this is something that you don't realize you're going to be really good at, but I think you're going to be freaking great at it. And thankfully, I was able to do that. And she elevated so quick. Dude, she closed like 100 deals in a year. It's like insane what she's done. And I would not have done that. I would not have known that. I would not have had the success in that business over the last 1.5 years with her if I didn't make sure to just keep her in the pile separately, because right person, maybe wrong time, right? So always hire, or keep recruiting and keep interviewing so you can keep that pile fresh. That's a huge, huge thing. And by the way, the person who taught me that, that was actually their number one. And I paid probably like $7,000 to get into a private dinner one night just to be able to like have this person's time. They were making like $2.7 million a month at the time in their wholesale operation. And that was his number one piece of advice for me. Like that night, it was really
wrong time. Have them ready.
Always. And his whole thing was like, always be interviewing, no matter what. You're always, and he said it to me, you're always selling and you're always hiring, no matter what. And that's going to be the two biggest things, because you can't tangibly grow a business if like, and the problem is this, I'd rather you, and by the way, whatever you think, if you think you need 2 positions, go and hire 4 guys. Go and hire 4 guys, because 2 of them, trust me, are not going to work, right? And if they do work, they're not going to work for very long. And so always overhire, because you can always just gas more leads and put more stuff on their plate. Don't underhire, because when you are, this is the big problem right now. One of my buddies, they made over 10, 11 million last year. And they had a guy who did like 3 million in revenue, right? Huge. Awesome. I think we're all like, damn, I want to have that guy on my team, right? Yeah, of course. No brainer. But the problem, if you do 10 million in rev and he contributes for 3 million of that, and you've got 10 other guys, the problem is you have one guy contributing for 33% of your revenue. If he leaves, or his girlfriend leaves him, or his wife leaves him, or if he gets hit by a car, the hell just happened to your company?
Yeah, it's switching things up for sure.
100%. So the smaller you get, you got to be really freaking careful. This is why I like just playing a little bit wider and a little bit safer. Funny enough, I'll try to find it and send it to you on Instagram. There's this reel. I think it was Grant Cardone and Ryan Pineda were talking about this, where Grant told Ryan, like, hire 10 people at a time, hire 50 people at a time. Because half of them are going to leave anyways. It's like, always do that. There's a danger to only hiring 1 or 2 people at a time, because you can't grow your business. Because no matter what, like, if you lose 50% of your workforce, but you have 50 people, you still got 25 revenue generators. But if you lose 50% of your workforce and you've only got 2 guys, you've got 1 person. And if anything happens to him, you're done and you're out of business. And I see this, just so you know, this is why most solopreneurs who start hiring, they do this exact dumb shit. They never get through the gates because they try, it doesn't work. Guy quits, guy leaves, girlfriend leaves, whatever. And they can never get through the hurdle. That's a huge, huge thing. It's also something we're implementing in our businesses as well. So yeah, I hope that was.
Oh my God, that was so meaningful. Yeah, definitely adopted a lot. I want to hire 10 people now. Kind of go that way.
Let's do this. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I know we're coming up on time here. I was just curious, kind of as you mentioned Sasha, I guess, how did you, even when you hired her the first time, like, how did you know that she was your right hand? And then I guess this kind of parallels with sales director, operations director, whatever you want to name the position. How did you know when it was time to hire that person? And then again, how did you know it was Sasha?
Yeah. So fun fact. So Sasha, she started off basically as like someone working in the company. And then she eventually became a full-fledged partner, like 50-50 owner. And, and I knew that it was like a matter of time with her that was going to happen. Absolute matter of time that this was that was gonna happen with her, without a shadow of a doubt. The only thing that I just needed her to have more experience, like getting deals closed and going through the process. And she just needed to pay down that ignorance debt. I could immediately spot right person, wrong role, right skill sets, wrong vehicle, right? Those skill sets are not compatible with the vehicle that I had her in. And I'm just like, shit, but her work ethic was insane. Her intuitiveness was insane. I'm like, you are a gold mine, but I'm like, I'm just not putting you in the right spot. And so when the time came for this new role, I literally was like, okay, in my ecosystem, who do I know? And here's the thing, Sasha wasn't naturally a fit for that role, especially for a dispositions wholesale, which is all B2B sales, right? Business to business sales, a lot more cutthroat in terms of like the sales process. And I remember I'm like, she's very empathetic and she's compassionate, great for B2C, not so much for B2B. But I'm like, if we can put an edge on her skill set, like, you know, sharpen the blade, she'll be a killer. Because there's something to be said about women in sales. And I mean this positively, women in sales crush. They crush, especially B2B. Why? Because guys are stupid. Guys will get on the phone with a girl and then hear like a soft voice and they'll just turn to putty. And I'm like, if we can put an edge on her and like really help her hone in that, she'll just take everyone to town. Sure. And it makes great for B2B negotiations, but when you're trying to sell a deal and get more, right? But when the time came, I virtually went and looked at my pile, like my gold mine pile of people. And I'm like, don't like this person. That person was cool, but they're busy, whatever. And then I remember looking at Sasha, I'm like, this might be a stretch, but I want to shoot the shot because I think she could be great at this. And I went and approached her with it. I'm like, hey, what do you think? Not going to be a partner. I'm going to pay all the bills. I'm going to do all the things. I'm going to hire all the people. I just need you to basically come in as like a pseudo director. And she was like, I don't say like, hell no, that's like not going to be a good fit. And I'm like, trust me, just try it. Worst case scenario, you know, we close some deals, you'll make money and you get skilled and you realize you don't want to do this. Worst case. Best case scenario, you freaking crush it, get hyper skilled, make a lot of money, do a lot of deals, have a cool story to tell. And what ended up happening is I just became so emphatic about giving her creative control. I'm like, and it was funny. By the end of it, my role in that company, the beginning was just to sign DocuSigns. Like that was the chief executive DocuSigner. And then I became, then it got to the point where she took that off my plate too. She's like, Sam, I don't even need you to sign because like you're busy speaking on stage. Like it's delaying the DocuSigns. And so she's like, I just need you to like, you know, confirm wiring instructions for deals that close. And then she handled that because I'm speaking on stage, I'm doing Samsung stuff. And then eventually got to a point where I'm like, I do jack shit. And then I'm just like, okay. And I'm just here to like swipe the credit card, pay the bills. And then eventually the business becomes profitable. So the business, you don't actually do personal expenditures. The business pays for all the expenses, right? It runs itself. And then I'm like, dude, I'm freaking useless here. And the only reason that we had this escalation of this person's talent so high, one, tremendously talented human being, like natural talent through the roof, tremendous work ethic, very intuitive, all the things. Like, I don't want to take that away from her. She has all that. The thing that I think really worked, that it was, I'm very proud of myself, was that I feel like I did a decent enough job at giving her the room to breathe and have creative control to make her feel like this is your ship too. So I want you to own it. I want you to steer the ship, right? It's not my ship that you have to come on and fall in line. I want you to help me build this thing. And when you do that with the right person, it turns into freaking magic. And so my whole thing with Sasha, and if anyone ever like goes and DMs her on Instagram, tell her I said hi. She's amazing. My whole thing with her, I'm like, I want to go start more businesses with her. I'm like, let's go do more shit. Like, we work. Let's go find a better vehicle than real estate wholesale. But yeah, dude, when you have the right person, the right talent pool, and you have that hot leads list just sitting on the side, it becomes very easy to find the right person and then kick things off really, really strong. That's why when you start seeing these advanced guys who seem to start a business and within their first 30 days are already profitable, you're like, how the hell did that happen? It's because they were like prepped every step of the way with the onboarding, with the leads list, the hot candidate leads, right? And so on and so forth. When you have all of that prepped, it becomes easy to just kick off and go really, really, really fast, really quick.
Wow. Like, phenomenal stuff, Sam. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we absolutely have to run. Guys, I don't think we've ever, I don't know. We may have done this with like Marlon and me, but like, this was fun. I hope you got value. Like, absolutely. I hope you got value. Do me a favor. You and I talked through Instagram a lot. Go do the things, run into specific problems, run into specific constraints, and then shoot me a DM or a text if you've got, concerns about that or anything you run into. And then happy to keep getting you on the right path. Everyone who's watching, like, I'm not telling you to leave your families, but if this dude's like willing to leave the freaking country to go to freaking Mexico, like, holy shit. Holy shit. Yeah, you got to do it. Don't have to go to Mexico, but take it seriously. Be willing to sacrifice because this is what success looks like. And so, dude, I commend you. It's awesome what you're doing. I'm excited to see what you do moving forward. For everyone else, guys, if you guys like this, do me a favor. Do all the things, right? Share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Shoot me a DM on Instagram if you want us to do this with you. I think that'd be fun because I enjoy this kind of hot seat kind of style of thing, so I can answer specific questions. Bro, you're the special guest today. Anything you want to say to the guys before we just tap out?
Before, guys, lock in. Trust me, it is so worth it. Even though it's tough, make that extra call, make that extra text. Show up to Think Big. I was going to put it in the chat, but I didn't want to be that guy. I was the first person on Think Big for the third week in a row. Be the first person. Be the first person to like. Spam Sam respectfully in the DMs. Insightful questions. Don't be the guy from before that's just trying to get value and not implement. And he rewards go-givers and people that take action. Just do the thing.
Huge. Guys, peace out. We'll see you next Tuesday.
See you guys. Thanks, Sam.